I was going to say anyway, so I'm not even that interested. I'll start off with myself in terms of where I started, where I come from. Then I'll switch it up to why you're here, which is written in blue. My name's Darrel. I was born and raised in Brixton Hill. I had an R.
From Brixton Hill.
You from Brixton Park?
Yeah, so towards Clapham.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like my area's quite in between both. But yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So literally on the strip of Brixton Hill. I grew up in a place called Renton Close. Now Renton Close is adjacent to Brixton Prison. So growing up, like I was on the 5th floor and my bedroom window was like, just like a normal window. But when I can open my curtain, I can look out and I can see the prison yard. So every morning as a black boy growing up, my vision of seeing, okay, yay, sunlight, I want to go outside and play, in the 80s, not revealing my age, it was like, cool, I could see the men working out, I'd see like killers and rapists. That was my vision of yeah, if you look up Renton Close, you can see, it's right next to Brixton Prison, you can see into the yard. But they've changed it up now, but they've moved things around. My mother was a single mother because my dad pretty much was still keeping up with some of the things that he was keeping up with when he was younger. His parents being Jamaican, he's one of those children that, for the Caribbean people in the room, it happens a lot in West African countries as well. But my grandmother came to the UK, made some money and then sent money to the Caribbean to then send for him to come over, and he lived here, and then my grandfather came over. And then when my dad got older, he stayed with his sister, and then his parents went away. So pretty much the streets raised him in Brixton. My dad was I haven't told him what he is yet, but my dad was the youngest person in the 70s, I believe early 70s, to go to jail for, yeah, he was the youngest person to sell Class A drugs. Like he was on the front of the South London Press. So he was always involved in that sort of thing in terms of community and street life. He was that guy. But as a kid growing up, I'll be out with my dad and everybody would say, "Oh, Freddie, how you doing, Freddie? How you doing, Freddie?" I'm like, why does everybody know my dad? Like, he's so like, I used to say he was my dad, but everybody was. Until I grew up, as I got moved from Brixton, I moved somewhere else. And then I didn't really see my dad. And the only thing he had around for me was just books. And my mum wasn't the type of person to be like, "Oh, your dad's this, your dad's that," sort of thing. She always said, regardless of whatever, just remember your dad's intelligent. I'm like, okay. Never had a conversation with him. Until I started picking up his books. And then his best friend, who's my godfather, took me to, do you have supplementary schools in East? Do you know what they are? Saturday schools.
No, you got a book? You got the book about Saturday schools? I wrote the book. So.
Always trying to plug himself.
Yeah. So basically, with supplementary schools, these Saturday schools, in Caribbean communities especially, it's like an alternative to the normal curriculum. So you learn more about everything you see in this room, from about 4, so like nursery upwards. So I started to go to Saturday schools, and they taught me something else other than what I was learning in primary school. And that pretty much triggered my mind to always look at things differently, especially that I was reading like a lot of Biff and Chip books. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, hold on, like, where's all these black books? See the black books you've got now? If I had that as a kid, oh my, so it's like Biff and Chip all the time, got the dog kippers always going out on the road, like, there's never on the leash. If you look at Biff and Chip, it's never on the leash, it's always one. Anyway, so then you had black people, there was like Wilf and Wilma or something like that, and yeah, they weren't even interested. They just had 2 lines and that was it, like, hi, like tokenism, innit? So I always had in my mind, like, question this, question that. Then I left and went to Jamaica, and I lived in Jamaica for a short period of time, and went to school in Jamaica. It was a good experience, and it was a horrible experience, because I've left here where I'm playing like Nintendo and Street Fighter. I've gone to the countryside in Jamaica, and there's no TV, there's no radio, the shower's outside, the toilet's outside, like, and I spent a short period of time like as a holiday, and then the next day, like one day, my dad was like, "Oh, you guys school tomorrow, so you gotta go to bed." I'm like, "Sorry, I'm liking this beach and jerk walk." And then I went to school, and the first day that just changed my life, because as soon as I walked into the school, I was nervous, I was crying, I was like, no. As soon as I walked into the classroom, everybody looked at me, and then one boy made a joke about me because they all wear like khaki uniforms, and I was wearing like Nikes and Reeboks or whatever, my dad had a little money, and he made a joke calling me like a foreigner. If you're from like the UK and you go back home, maybe you're called foreigner or British or whatever. So he made a joke, and the teacher just turned around to him, got the ruler and went smack. I was like, I was scared thinking, and she was beating him, and everyone was laughing. I was like, oh my god. And this was like way before Matilda was big, but like I was thinking, you see teacher? No! Like, so I was like, what? But I settled in, picked up a bit of the Jamaican patois, and but the mindset of being in Jamaica just changed my mind, because the way they learn in Jamaica, everything was to music. So even though I grew up in Brixton and whatnot and I'm surrounded by music, I never actually felt that music was important until I went to Jamaica. So even simple things like we was learning how to count. I had a long ruler I was going across the chalkboard, that's how it was, chalkboard. And every morning before we done the national anthem, we would just count, and we'll count backwards. So like, to a normal beat, it'd be like 1 centimeter, 2 centimeter, 3 centimeter, every morning. And then we have to go backwards. And the same with the alphabet. So we had like a reggae version of ABC. I'm not going to do it. We're in a reggae version. But the reason why it was good, because we understood the letters. For example, everybody knows their ABCs, right? Alright, say your ABCs backwards, quick. But in Jamaica, that I'm telling you, you had like 7-year-olds going back and forth, and they would look away, and then someone would say the first 6, and then I was like, wow. Like, but the nature of learning, it was more fun until I came back here, and I was called feisty, I was rude, because I was like, no, but the children in Jamaica are learning this, and you're only on this. Like, wow, like you can just about do hopscotch, and it's just like they're climbing trees, and I was like, wow. Anyway, so I grew up, went to school, done well in school. I was hanging around with a few people. I was involved in a lot of street stuff as well, and then I went to college, and I went to Richmond College, done IT, and done maths, smashed that as well, and then I became a parent after college. And that changed my life, because I had to be a man very quick. And my knowledge of what parenting was only what my dad showed me. But that was enough for me to say, you know, I don't want to be like that. So I wasn't even thinking about education at the time. And I worked in like corporate jobs, and I was happy. But I wasn't really happy because, like, for example, I worked in like HSBC, a very top one in Bond Street. At a decent job, I was like earning P, I was earning money. But the only thing is that I was a personal banker, but the people that I was serving were like snobby, middle class people who, for example, like, I'd have a desk like that, and a girl would come in, she's like 17, and she would come in, sit on my desk, and put her chihuahua right there on the desk. Like, I don't like dogs, I'm scared of dogs, I ain't gonna lie. Only because of Jamaica, because the Jamaican dogs are ruthless. And like my fingers like at the edge of the keyboard, and the dog's just there looking at me like thinking, oh my god, I'm like literally shitting myself. So I was like, I can't be in this environment, it's not me. So I started getting involved in the community. Started working in secondary schools that pretty much dealt with, like, I've done after school classes for students that were struggling, especially coming from less economic developed areas. So I was into learning, but not really, until I started following this gentleman here. I was like a fan of his work, got to kind of give him a big head. And then the Black Studies degree came up. I was like, all right. Let me see, because I was pretty much anti-establishment as well. I was like, university, nah. Because where I'm from, for you to be smart and be cool, didn't really go together. You was either smart and you was a geek, a neek, a boffin, that, or you were just cool and you were just doing X, Y, Z, other stuff. Do you know what I mean? So I was like, okay, went to the taste today, and I was like, this is okay. Had another teacher called Denise who was teaching like a little small segment. And I really enjoyed it. I was like, okay, I'm going to sign up. And then I joined Black Studies. And I thought, coming from London, going up to Birmingham, that's a trek, 123 miles. Like, that's far. I thought, oh, Birmingham people are slow. People, like, buses come like once every hour.
That's not true.
Like, they're late. Especially when it comes to music, I thought, oh, they are late. Like, a tube will come out here in London, right, today. They won't get it until like March. So late! So late! I hate it. I like music, obviously. But I fit right in. I met people like Caprice, and the community vibe on Black Studies, I've never felt that before, especially being in London. Like, you've got little pockets of activism, you know, movements going on, but in Birmingham, I must say, especially in the Caribbean community, there's more of a community vibe. They're more tight-knit than they are in London. And that's what makes Black Studies special, because it gives you that sense, because like the youngest is like, well, at the time was like 19 or something like that, and the oldest is like 56, yeah, 50, yeah, mid 50s. I think Tracy's like, yeah, mid 50s, something like that. And so you get a range of knowledge, and what it is with the older generation, they feel inadequate. Sometimes they feel like, I shouldn't go into university space or college space or whatever because I'm too old and I'm a mature student and they're not going to gel with me and then they're going to call me grandma and things like that. But we make them feel at home, and they kind of open up their arms and say, hey, look, have you thought about this? So they give us a different experience, especially when it comes to like Black Power movements from the 70s and 80s. Like, they were there. Like, it's not the times now where like you got someone who used to live in Oxford or someone that used to live in Birmingham and really have to fight like skinheads every day on their way home. Like, a woman who was a girl at the time would be leaving school, and then you've got that open window between like 3:30 and 4. If you don't leave that area within that time, then by after 4, that's when the skinheads come out, and there'll be black and white violence every single day. That was in the early 80s, late 70s. That was a common thing. So we get a range of knowledge, and the community vibe is what drives everybody together, because it's like, you know, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go further, go together. African proverb. And that's what the key thing about education is. Because, for example, the attainment gap right now at university, especially at BCU, is 10.3% of black students fail in their first year, in comparison to 6.5% of white students. So 1 in 10 black students will fail within the first year. Now, I asked a few questions to a few students there as to why do you think that is? And a lot of them said that they like it, but then they don't feel like they should be there. Their place is not there. They don't feel like they're included. So when I came in this room, I was like, wow. In school, I didn't have a room like this. In college, there wasn't a room like this. University, it's a bit different. You can't really decorate the rooms, but there isn't a space like this. So I'm thinking, like, it just opened up my eyes to say this is exactly what they was talking about. They felt left out. They felt as though, do you know what? I can't do this because there's so many different cultures, religions, there's faiths, there's so many things going on that's not represented in university. It's just 4 white walls, a board, and that's pretty much it. There's tables and you learn. And the thing about the Caribbean, and especially with Black Studies, we don't have that incremental theory where basically everybody learns the same way. Some people are different. Some people are faster, some people are slower, some people like to read on the screen, some people hate screens, they have to read on paper. We understand that, so we create that sort of vibe where we help each other, and there's a difference. So if the attainment gap is 1 in 10 people fail, black students fail in their first year, what is happening to the mindset? So people research this, but again, they don't really apply what they've learned to this. It's called practice, when you put theory into practice. So we started to look at it and say, okay, how can we go into the community and go into places like this and say, look, come along, feel included. I'm here. I'm from this background. That person's from there. Because you have to feel a sense of belonging. It's not our fault, you know, because the curriculum is not made for black people. The reality is, like, Kehinde keeps on looking at that map. What's the first place you see on that map? We're looking at that map in particular. What's the first place you look at? That massive one there. Why is Africa the first place you just see?
Yeah,
Why is it big? What's that map called then? What's the map called? It's actually written in black.
Peter's.
Yeah, Peter's projection map. Do you know why that map was created?
Because I think it represents the truth of like the world. Because I see Africa and South America is quite wide compared to most maps.
Exactly. Basically, the maps that we have now, or the globes, there was like sailors who used to navigate, so used to draw out certain places and say, okay, from here to here it will take this long, So that's the maps that we've been using for time. So that was like 1600s, And if you look at maps today, they are still around from 1600s, but who created that map? Do you think the person looked like me? Right, so during the 1600s, there was a lot going on when that map was created for sailors. What were the sailors doing? Stealing who? Exactly. So from nurseries to primary school, secondary, colleges were using maps that was used by sailors that were kidnapping Africans. But they say, no, forget about slavery, it's fine, it's in the past, don't like that, no. But then how can we forget about it? We're getting reminded every single day. So that map is created, it's proportion of the countries. So in reflection, Nigeria's a lot bigger, and Ghana's a lot bigger, South Africa's slightly bigger, Congo's a lot bigger, but it's stretched out. It's not perfect, but what every school should do is have that. So have the globe and say, this is what it looks like, but that's the relevant size of it. So the reason also why it's created is because it kind of like deflects the whole top and bottom hierarchy in terms of importance. So when you go into a supermarket, for example, and you buy cereal, you go in there, eye level is going to be Kellogg's. The Asda brand is going to be down there because no one's really looking down there. So Kellogg's pay money to make sure it's at eye level because that's how our brains work. You just want to go in, go out. You don't want to be looking down there with your bad back. You want to be just going in there and picking up. So when you look at a normal map, you always look at the top like Europe. And then you look at the bottom as the less countries and, oh, I don't want to go down there and stuff like that. Because of it's how our brains work. And for example, just looking at that, exactly that map actually, it kind of highlights it very well. Looking at that map, where is Europe?
Top.
Right at the top, right?
In the middle.
Is China in Europe? Why is China not in Europe? Tim? It's in Asia?
Yeah, Asia.
Okay. Alright. Don't treat me. What constitutes as a continent? Because when you said China's in Asia, what constitutes as a continent? What does a continent make up? What is it? What's the definition of a continent?
A group of nations that are in close proximity to one another.
Yeah, on the right path. Anybody else? What makes up a continent?
Maybe similar shared like values, cultures, facial maybe features or.
Close! Well, a little bit more. You're getting there. What makes up a continent?
Landmass is connected.
Say that again?
Is it landmass connected?
Yes, but alright, it's on the board. I'll give you one more go. Yes, on the board. It's massive. It's light blue. It's huge. It's on the board. Right. So, what makes up a continent is a massive or a huge landmass surrounded by 4 waters. Is Europe surrounded by 4 waters? No. What's this? How many waters are surrounded by?
2.
What do you guys want Russia as Europe?
2. Russia is Europe.
Mediterranean Sea.
Remember, you said China. I said it's China. You said Asia. I was like, okay. So if China's not in, it's connected to Russia. Europe has cut itself off somewhere. So how many waters are surrounding Europe? The answer is 3. So a large landmass surrounded by 3 waters is a peninsula. So Europeans have programmed us to think that Europe is a continent when it's not, because it's not surrounded by 4 waters, it's surrounded by 3. So we actually automatically think it because that's how the power structure be, and that's obviously we create the whole map. You can tell a story. So that's why it's called Eurasia. Eurasia is all of that together. So this is why Black Studies is important, because you get to identify mistakes like that, errors like that, and also you can start to feel, especially people from the continent of Africa, feel a little bit more important. Because it's like, well, look how big we're hedged now. We're all like, you know what I mean? We look small, and that's a representation. So the fact that news is going here, that's absolutely brilliant. So Black Studies is important because you connect sociology, you connect science, and it kind of tells you a story of history and how things began, especially for the females in here. Actually, is anybody doing science? What science you doing?
Physics.
Okay. Cool. We need you. Anybody familiar with biology?
Yeah.
Who's that? I'm not too sure if I should raise my hand. Have you heard of James Marion? Anybody heard of James Marion?
Who is that?
Alright, James Marion is considered as the father of gynecology for the women in the room. Yeah, look at him. Oh, yeah, it's about to get deep. James Marion, basically, he was the guy. He made a few, discoveries. but also what he did is he created something called the vaginal specula. Yeah? Okay, he's laughing.
Tested it on black women, didn't they?
Alright, so he's getting it. Yeah, so he created something called, look at that giggle. Vaginal specula. He created something called the vaginal specula. In a nutshell, not to go too deep into it, he created tools that he experimented on black women, as the gentleman was saying, to find out how the womb, the birth canal works. But he tested on black women in terms of cut them open, dice them up. I was like, nope, that didn't work. All right, get the next one in. Yep, no, this tool don't work. He practiced by cutting them up without local anesthetic.
It's because they believe black women have like tougher skin, tougher strength, and because it was stable as well.
That.
But yeah.
But just to go beneath that, he believed that black women didn't feel any pain.
Yeah.
So even despite there's screaming and there's blood everywhere and whatnot, he diced them up. And that's the sad thing about it, is because there's statues of them everywhere in America. Jay's married, yeah, gynecology, yeah. Especially women that go to the GP and stuff. The tools they used was experimented on by African women without any local anesthetic. And then when he got it right, because he performed over 3,000 surgeries, right? When he got it right, he then started practicing on white women with local anesthetic. Because science told him that black women didn't feel any pain. So when he gets that information saying black women don't feel any pain, he feels that he's doing something right. Just because if you can count it and measure it, that's science. Okay, it means it's right. So if colonialists are creating the text of black narratives, and then someone in a position that wants to create something like that takes that information and then performs, could you say he's bad? He probably could. But some people would argue, say, well, that's the information he had at the time. He's only doing what he's going to do, what, you know, notorious old school white people do.
You know, the worst thing about this is that still today, the evidence says of medical profession, if you're a black woman, you're far less likely to get the right pain medication. They still think that black women experience painless. And actually that's how medicine is practiced. So actually, if you look at evidence, like my wife does this research, so I don't put like, if when black women go to the GP or black women in hospital, they're under-medicated for pain relief. There's still this idea that black people, black women in particular, have a higher threshold for pain. So aren't believed with certain, this is one of the reasons why aren't believed with certain illnesses, because they don't get believed when you talk about pain in the belly or pain here, and don't get the right medication. Because it's this idea that black women can't feel pain comes from that, and it's actually still here in the practice of medicine today. Mad, right?
And if you look up the statistics of how many black women die from childbirth in the UK alone, it's horrendous. I mean, the statistics about black people in most fields anyway is horrendous. So this is why black studies is important, and why we need it, because we got to bring these things for life. It's not just for black people, it's for white people to understand as well, it's people, whatever. It's just so we can have these conversations. Okay, we've had enough. We ain't going to listen to Theresa May anymore, or Piers Morgan. What we're going to do is that we're going to start looking at the history books, take out what's rubbish, put in some new context, and that's it. But we have to have these conversations, get the right people in positions like Kehinde was saying about how hard it is to teach black studies. For example, he's a professor. There's 19,000 professors in the UK. 19,000. All right, so out of 19,000, how many of them are black men? 100. Out of most 19,000, that's a lot.
Less than 100.
Less than 100? 20? 50? Out of 19,000, how many of them are black men?
I'll change it, I said less than 10.
Knew a few other people over
There's 90
Oh, it's close. That's close.
of black men out of 19,000. Yeah? How many of the 19,000 then are black women?
Two.
That one must have a hard life.
45.
45?
Yeah.
Good you get in class. That's very, very, very warm. What was that? You said, oh, okay.
47.
20.
All close.
38.
No.
49.
No, down.
38.
Oh, down.
50.
40, yeah. So 40. So, for example, 90,000, 40 and black women is like, who's giving out this information? This is why we got to have these conversations in these spaces, because then we've got to eradicate what's happened before. It's just a waste of time. It really is, and we've got to change and say, hey, cool. There's only 2 places that I see, lastly before I go, that I see there's a unification of where, I shouldn't say colour doesn't matter, but that's not at the forefront of people's mind. It's in nurseries, where you see like black and white kids play together, and in prisons. Those are the only 2 places where you, obviously you got like dances in prisons and you've got different segments, but together under the same it's true, yeah, seriously. Like, I've been to prisons and it's like, oh, okay, cool. Germany all over again. But in prisons, it's like under the same oppression, under the same struggle, everybody kind of like gels together, and people miss that. It's like when they come out of prison, it's a separate thing. But you obviously got faiths in there, and you got just normal people getting together. You got like old black people and old white people just playing chess every day. That's the only thing they can do. But under the same oppression, they're eating the same food, wearing the same clothes. There's no class system. It's just that. And those are the 2 things that we need to explore and say, what is it that children get that we don't as we go up? Something happens in the curriculum where we lose it, and then we start to, because children are not born racist, they learn it along the way. So in prisons, there's a unification because they understand the struggle together. It's like, doesn't matter if you're black, doesn't matter if you're white. We got to get through these years or months together, sort of thing. So yeah, what is Black Studies? It's beautiful. That's what it is. Thank you.